Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great radio personalities of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. And as always, it's my pleasure to remind you that you're listening to theme music written and performed by special request by my friend and man whose parakeets have to listen to his playing way more often than I do, Drew Jacobs. You've heard Drew's creative parody work on the Dr. Demento radio show and on his many CD collections. By the way, his latest, Christmas Ball Busting, is available now on iTunes, Amazon, and at drewjacobs.com. Drew correctly points out that it's funny any time of the year, like a lot of us like to be. Another treat for you this month, as another veteran of the Capital Region airwaves was able to find the heavily holiday-decorated Radio Split Ranch this month and survive climbing up the 6 steps to my den/studio. If you don't recognize this man, then obviously you've slept in on the weekends for the last 25 years or so. Get ready to enjoy the humor now missing from much of commercial radio, but that still stands the test of time, thanks to the talents of the one and only, thank goodness, Joe Gallagher. Having done absolutely no preparation for this interview, Joe, I don't even know where to start with you, because I've known you now for probably going on 20, 25 years, and I never know what's going to come out of your mouth.
You might start by addressing me, sir.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That would be nice.
And this is why I enjoy talking with you, Joe. Let's start, as I do with most of these interviews, let's start at the beginning. Okay, so when and why on earth did you think radio might be something you would enjoy doing?
Where's the camera? I want to look into the camera.
Wrong business, wrong broadcaster.
Oh, okay, right. How I started, my brother Tom wanted to be a radio announcer when he was a young lad and fulfilled that. He went to school in Boston for a couple of years, Cambridge School of Broadcasting.
Which became Graham Junior College, where I went.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he came back and got a job in our hometown station of WGVA, which I still read about today. Back then, it was considered one of the prime small city stations in the state. It was really a very talented group.
Nice.
He took me on a tour one day, and I fell in love with it.
Isn't that crazy?
I wasn't even a big radio listener, but I just fell in love with all the controls.
How old were you, do you think?
Probably 18, maybe.
Okay.
So 17, 18. So at that point, I got very interested. And I went to school to become an accountant. And at that time, with a minor in computer science.
Really?
But I never finished that because the accounting course I took was way ahead of where I had been. All of the other students had taken bookkeeping in high school.
In high school, yeah.
I never did. I took all these different college courses, so I got out of that. And then I was able to get a job with my brother. He helped me open the door.
Yeah.
And I went to WGVA, and I did the night show. He did the afternoons, I believe, at that point. And that's how it all came to be. It was magic, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it gets in your blood.
Yeah.
As you know, it's like one of those things where once you start into it, it's hard to get out of it.
Almost any jock you talk to, anybody that period has been in the business, period, same thing happens. It's something that gets inside you, and you miss it when you're not doing it, and you look forward to doing it. You probably haven't had too many days you've gotten up and said, "Oh, I don't want to do this today," right?
No, never.
Yeah.
But it gets into your blood. I just wish more of the income would get into your wallet, which
exactly
never seemed to be the case.
Which, if I remember the story, is exactly what your brother figured out sooner than you did.
He did. He left to work for UPS and had a very good career there. And then he retired and went back into radio for a little bit after that.
I'll be darned.
He got out of it again. But I will say it's the magic of theater of mind.
Yeah.
We're in a small room. We don't have to look at a big crowd, and we can create things. And working with all the people I've worked with over the years, including you, it's just been a great experience.
Oh, absolutely. Now, what kind of music were you playing back at GVA?
GVA was top 40.
Okay.
Playing the hits.
Cool.
And WNYR in Rochester was a country station.
Okay.
And it came after one of our employees, the morning guy, Denny Rogers, and he went to Winter. And then our one of the part-time guys, Dean Murdoch, who was a graduate of Hobart College in Geneva, was a banker. He had a great voice. He ends up going to Winter and becoming the program director. So then shortly after that, my brother goes. Now, all of them said, hey, we don't want to play country music.
Yeah.
We're top 40 guys. And then I went, every one of us to a person fell in love with country music.
Yeah.
It is so dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And I would have never thought that had I not got into playing it.
And that's where you and I were exactly the same. There's just no way. Now, mine's a little different. When I finally, after playing it for 12 years at 2 different stations, I was let go. I decided, okay, I'm done. And so I really haven't listened since. It's not one of my favorite formats.
You were let go?
Yeah, believe it or not. It's hard to believe in radio that you can get fired.
How many times were you let go? It had to be more than once. I'm only kidding. No. Forgive me.
Hey, it's a badge of honor in our business. You kidding? You're not pushing hard enough if they don't come in and tell you, stop that or you're gone, And,
well, they have a format. I always kept to the format, but I would always stretch it a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of people said you got to talk for 10 seconds or less. And make sure it's very pertinent what you say.
Yeah,
but that was not who I was. Sure. I mean, I just wanted to relate things.
Yeah.
And I always pushed it, but I never pushed it to the point that I broke the format, but I certainly stretched it.
Good. So you had some good mentors there. You learned the business at a good local radio station. Where did it go from there?
Well, working in Rochester, I will say my diction needed a little work, and Dean Murdoch, who was a great program director, he worked with me on that and got that all taken care of. And I just had a natural way about me, and I would just go on the radio and be me.
Yeah.
And I do things that were probably most people would say, oh my gosh, he shouldn't be doing that on the radio, but it came over okay.
Yeah.
So people, I mean, nothing bad. It was all just very light humor stuff.
Kind of done in innocence, he doesn't know that maybe that's not right what he's saying,
Well, then they promoted me to the morning show.
Okay.
At Winter. I became the morning guy, and the owner of the station, I won't get into names, came by one day, and he said to me, you are the future of our station. We were going to hire a consultant. He will be here in a few weeks, and we're going to let some of the people go, but you're the future of the station. And 2 weeks later, when the consultant came, I was let go.
You were let go.
So the owner of the station was telling me how much he was going to keep me. But anyway, from Winter, we went on to WWOL in Buffalo. Some of the guys I worked with, Jerry Adams, Paul Elbert.
You really knew I don't mean to interrupt, but you really had to know how to say W if you're working at a station with two W's in it.
I don't think I ever really conquered that, though. I still have a little shaky.
Sounded pretty good to me just now.
Well, that may have been luck. I don't know that I ever did it. But, I worked with some great guys. And that's one of the things about radio. You work with people, and people leave, and they go on to other stations, and then when there's an opening there, they think of you,
True.
And they call you. And the sad part about broadcasting, and this is the sad part, you have to move a lot.
Yeah.
So you may be a year and a half here, a year and a half there. But, I look back on it, Chris, and I'll tell you that everybody, I worked with great people. It was a great career. Maybe not didn't make the most money, but I would never change a thing. The people were wonderful. The audiences were just so loyal.
Yeah.
And
well, when you think about it, when we get together and talk, and we disc jockeys have a tendency to do that now and again, we don't talk about the lousy money we made. We talk about the people we worked with, and the talent that we worked with, and the fun we had, working with those people. But I just don't remember sitting around and starting a conversation. Well, if they'd paid me more, I would have stayed here, or whatever. I just don't do it.
No, it never was that, because we had a lot of fun. We were not in a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Like you go to work at 9, you're home at 5, same thing every day. Ours was different every day.
Yep.
And the people we worked with, we had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy business. Doing production and the demands and they need quick responses for everything. Hey, we need you to do this 60 right and do a 60-second commercial. Has to be on the air in an hour.
Exactly. And they hand you this ad from the newspaper, and it's 2 by 2 inches. And out of that, you're supposed to get 60 seconds worth of commercial. I love that. And usually it's 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, and it starts Monday morning. And you don't have to work the weekend unless you have to come back and do this commercial.
Yeah, right. And if you make a mistake in it, you have to. Back when as we started, we had tape.
Real tape, yep.
And, of course, today it's all digital, so if you make a mistake, it takes half a second to change it. Back then, you'd have to almost redo the whole thing over again, or splice and cut. Yeah. So it was a lot of hard work, very frustrating at times. You always had were hoping for good ratings because if the ratings didn't pan out, you didn't pan out.
Yeah, it's true. It's
You were,
true. Yeah.
you know, they throw you in the frying pan and out you go. But basically, again, I would say it's a great career. I don't think it's quite the same today as when we got in it, but you know.
I'm kind of wondering what kind of person gets attracted to it today, to be very honest with you, because of course they don't know any different probably. They just know that they're going to go in and they're going to spend an hour doing a 6-hour shift by voice tracking it and just doing the breaks rather than being there the entire 6 hours. But I mean, who is that going to attract compared to, you know, when we saw the lights and the dials and the everything and the turning turntables and the spinning, you know, tape decks and stuff. I mean, that's what attracted me was this guy's got all these buttons and dials he can play with and if you do it right, listen to what it sounds like, you know.
Right.
That's what attracted me at 11. That's what just said I want to try this. Yeah.
Well, you know, all those Hess toys, they have all those lights too. I'm attracted to those as well. So it might be the lights and the noises, but
there you go.
Back when we started, it was fun. I mean, you did a lot of different things. There were a lot of great stations on the air.
Yeah.
Very competitive, and it was live all day long. Like we had a morning guy, a midday, afternoon, night, all night. But that's not the case anymore.
No, it's not.
A lot of it's syndicated, and there aren't enough opportunities anymore for young people who may want to get into broadcasting.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's very few people doing a lot of work now.
It's probably because we ruined the industry when we were in it.
That's probably what happened. That's what I figured too. We ruined it for everybody following us, Joe. You know, I mean, they're just never going to match us.
But we have these gatherings you go to. You and Bob Cudmore put on with a lot of the broadcasters from the area, the older broadcasters. A bunch of half-wits. You know, you have to.
But the nice part is when we all get together, there's like a full wit. You know.
We have more fun, and you know the talent that is in there, whether it be Larry Mossy writing production and doing things. Brian Jackson was Robin Williams before Robin Williams.
Yeah,
it was just crazy.
Okay, Joe, here's the commercial for our show in the morning here on WOKO. And this part is the part here where we tell the people that we're on from 5:30 to 9 every morning and stuff.
You did a good job with it.
Yeah,
good job.
So if you're all set, we'll do it and we'll record it so they can put it on the air.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Brian Jackson.
Oh, no, wait a minute. This is one thing I don't like about that.
What's that?
I'll start off by saying, hi, I'm Joe Gallagher.
No, Joe, that's not the way I wrote it. You see, this is a team
I know,
show.
we're a team.
It's a team.
Hi, I'm Joe Gallagher.
No, that's not the way I wrote it. I'll do it my way.
I think I gotta do it my way, pal.
Listen, we're always doing things your way. Let's do things my way for once. Now, this is a team, and let's get this team together.
Okay, it goes first. It's no big deal.
Hi, I'm Brian
Joe
Jackson.
Gallagher.
Listen, pal.
Now, look.
Half the time you don't even show up on time at 5:30 to go on the air. That should just be the Brian Jackson
Look,
show.
I was on time twice this week, and don't throw that in my face.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I'm
This
just
is a
about
small
had it
thing
with
to
it.
argue about.
Listen, all right? Hey, you want to do it your way?
I'll do it my way.
Well, I'm not going to do it at all.
Where are you going?
Goodbye.
We're a team.
Yeah, and his background was more news and information, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yet we can all sit and we've got the same stories. Yeah.
We have the same stories, and you just appreciate everybody, not only for being what they were professionally, but being the people they were, because they were good people. We worked with good people. So
Absolutely. So you switched over to country music and fell in love with it.
I did. I stayed with that for, about 10 years all told. And then I had an opportunity. Well, I came from Buffalo to OKO in Albany.
Okay.
So that was 7 years. That may rounded out the 10 years.
Okay.
Then I had an opportunity to go to Syracuse to work at WHEN Radio.
Okay.
And it was always a great radio station. And I got there, and I'll tell you, the people I worked with there, I could name all of them. I mean, really.
Okay. But I'm going to back you up a step, because you can't just give OKO a short shrift.
Oh, no.
And here's why.
Well, okay.
Here's why.
Why?
Because you and I were competitors when GNA came on the air and started doing country on FM. You and I were worked against each other and in sometimes the same time slots, a couple of times the same time slots. And I'd hear these things about you, but never really could listen to you because we were on at the same time.
Right.
Little did I know that I'm doing some of the same stuff that you're doing in between the songs. When did the characters start? When did you start doing voices? Was that earlier than OKO, or did that kind of develop there?
I'm not really sure. I might have been before that.
Okay.
Because when you're all by yourself in a studio, you need somebody to talk to.
Exactly.
And if there's nobody there, then
you make somebody
you
up.
find somebody. So
Is that how Marge was born?
Well, Marge has a different story. People think Marge does my voice. She always says, "Oh, I would never do that." I'm not,
Yeah, exactly.
That
What do
guy's
you
crazy.
take me for? Yeah.
Hi, listeners. Joe Gallagher. Happy boating. If you're going boating today, be careful. What's it like to be in a boat? Pretty cool, huh? You have a big trailer, you put the boat on there, and you take it over to the lake, huh? Back it in, and then off the trailer. Yeah, we've seen people do that. And my sons, when they were smaller, Herman and Mortimer, they said, "Dad, how come we don't have a boat?" What am I going to say? Kids, I work weekends. Ain't no way I'm going to get a boat. So I had to think of something. I didn't want to shatter their dreams at that age, so I said, "There's a boat shortage."
Really, Dad?
Yeah, you can't boats. There's a boat shortage. Otherwise, we'd have one. And anyway, what's it like to be in a boat? I mean, it's probably not that easy getting it back on the trailer to get it out of the water, right? Well, anyway, have fun boating today, okay? It looks like fun watching from the shore. It does. All right, this is Joe Gallagher. Thank you. And I'll tell you, yeah, it looks so cool from the shore. I mean, I don't know what it must be fun to be splashing in the waves and everything. And hang on, GY, good morning. Good morning.
You told your boys there was a boating shortage when they were little. And that's why you didn't have a boat?
Marge,
Oh, man.
I'm busy right now. I
They
can't.
know now. They've grown up. They know that there's no boating shortage. There was a shortage of you doing your homework in school. That's the reason you don't have a boat. The only shortage I can think of is you're doing your homework on time.
Okay.
You're Mr. Nitwit.
Come on.
All right, listeners, have a nice weekend, okay?
No,
This is
get off.
Marge. I'm in the gift shop here at WGY.
Good, stay there.
Boating shortage.
Well, but they bought that until they were about 11, and then they said they figured it out. It wasn't. I think their mother told them.
Yeah, so OKO was a great station. We worked for, I had a general manager who we had to work very hard for. I had a lot of work. I worked 6 to midnight. I had to do a lot of production, a lot of different things. But if you could work for him, you could work for anybody. Boy, I learned a lot working for him. It was tough.
Yeah.
But it panned out. It worked. And the people I worked with and the music. You know, we used to do those, have concerts where the artists would, and the artists of country music, the big name artists were so friendly.
It's so different from the rock and roll side where, you could hardly get them to do anything after a concert. The country folk, they would sit there for 2 hours after a show, not just sign autographs, but then talk with every disc jockey in town that wanted to talk with them.
They were great. I remember Waylon Jennings strumming his guitar off stage, getting ready to go on, and I was back there. I was going to introduce him, and we got to talking. And he's just like talking to
Exactly.
your neighbor.
Same,
he was a big deal.
I did it with Loretta Lynn and with Dolly Parton, and they would just give you whatever time you wanted and whatever question you wanted to ask. Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin brothers were at SPAC, and I bring my wife backstage after the show, and the brothers are all sitting there, and Larry's munching. I've got a picture of him. He's munching on a bowl of popcorn. And my wife walks in about 8 months pregnant, and he looks at her and he goes, "I've never been in this town before in my life." And I'm thinking, well, I said, we're in for a lot of fun with this interview. This is going to be a kick, and that's exactly what he was. He was very easy to talk to. All the brothers were.
Well, we had lunch with Dolly Parton, and my mom and dad were able to come and be part of it too.
Wow.
Lee Phillips, and when I worked at OKO, and she was great.
Oh, absolutely.
She was great. And she came into town to play at the Colony Coliseum with Mac Davis.
Yep.
So they said to me, Mac Davis needs a golf partner. Would you like to golf with him? And of course, I am an awful golfer. I said, no. I mean, I had to bite my tongue and say, I can't. No, I can't. I would have embarrassed myself.
Yeah.
So, no, but having lunch with Dolly was a thrill. She was so down to earth. Yeah.
Interesting sidelight to that show. My wife was a huge Mac Davis fan, mostly because of his TV show. She didn't really listen to country music, but loved him on his TV show.
Right.
Now, she had heard of Dolly because she had that half-hour syndicated show for a while on her own. And Marie would just laugh at her thinking, who is that woman, and never watched the show. She left that concert a bigger fan of Dolly than Mac Davis. Yeah. She said, I was just so taken by this woman and her voice and her talent and her personality. And when she got a chance to sit at a table with her, with me interviewing Dolly, she cherishes the picture because it was just such a great night. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
You should know, by the way, when she came to do that show with Mac, we sent her from the competitors of yours at GNA, we sent her flowers to her hotel. And she actually called from the hotel room on a Saturday afternoon when I'm on the air to thank us for sending the flowers to her.
Is this when I had, the same time I had lunch with her?
Yeah, probably.
If I'd have known that, I would never have come over here today to be part of this interview.
The things you learn on a podcast.
You guys, sneaky.
But she was so nice. I said, can I put a tape on and can we talk for a couple minutes? Oh, sure. So it only lasted 5 minutes because I'm playing records at the same time, while I'm in the studio.
Yeah, right.
And, but she gave me a quick 5-minute interview and
Great lady.
Helped plug the show that your station was sponsoring probably. But anyway.
Oh, man. Can I leave? I want to go.
No.
Go.
You're going to find other things about us that you didn't know also.
Do you have any food here, by the way?
No. It's just the water next to you there. Yeah. And I do apologize. The limo is in the shop, so I couldn't send the limo.
Yeah, I wondered
for you
about
this
that.
morning.
I had to drive over myself.
Yeah, I know it's tough. Yeah, and then to have to go up those 6 steps here at the Radio Split Ranch. I know that was tough.
And then the dog bit me. Your dog bit me. Did you know that?
He's only trained to go after disc jockeys, so don't worry about it.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Anyway, so you're loving country music, and I'm doing the same thing. And on OKO, you're hooked up with a crazy newsman. I mean. And we can mention his name because I think he's already come up in the conversation.
Brian Jackson.
Brian Jackson, yeah. Who a terrific journalist, great journalist. But you guys really, you had some fun.
It's time now to bowl for your life, and our lucky contestant today is Egbert Bacon from New Rochelle.
Can I take a practice shot?
I'm sorry, Egbert. Time does not allow. You'll have to roll the lucky ball.
Please, just a
Yeah. Oh, Egbert, you left the 8 and the 5 pin. Sorry.
No.
Now let's put our hand in the bin and see who Egbert's pin pal is. It seems it's Luella Lederier from Poughkeepsie, and our secret microphones are at her front door right now.
Yes.
Luella.
Are you from Ball for Your Life?
Yes, we are, and your pin pal left the 8 and the 5. Be listening again when you'll have a chance to bowl for your life.
You know what? Brian has owned a station. He's done news. He's worked for the governor. He's done just about everything. You know, there's this saying, what is it?
A jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. Brian is a jack of all trades and a master of all.
I agree.
He does everything.
Yeah, I have to get him in here, needless to say. He's on my list.
Yeah. And he also, his sense of humor is just outrageous. I mean, he's like Robin Williams, just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And working with him, sometimes I was a little concerned about what he was going to say or do next. So,
back then it was all live to boot. Today when you're listening to a podcast, if something's not going right or you think maybe you've gone too far, it's easy to take it out. Yeah. And the same really with radio today, because they record all the breaks. And so if have you ever listened? Well, you never did voice tracking.
No, I never did that. No.
When I was in the later years, when I was on the air, I was doing voice tracking. Every once in a while, I'd listen back to a break and say, you know what? I think that could be taken the wrong way, or I think I went a little too far with what I was trying to do there, or it wasn't funny, and so you just erase it and do it again. But back in the live days, you couldn't, and you really had to be careful because,
Yeah, we used to do a thing called squibs. When I worked at WNYR, we would do several intros of different songs, and then go to a remote. We would drive to a remote, so we'd be on the air, but we're driving to the remote.
Okay. Oh, sure.
And we call them squibs. Then we get to the remote, and that's how. But never really the kind of voice tracking you did.
Yeah. But
that takes a skill because I like being on live.
Oh yeah.
And doing things, recording it sometimes isn't the same if you're
Yeah.
recording a program. So,
One of my favorite lines, that of course it wasn't mine and I stole it, but whenever I'd have a morning where things weren't going quite right, you play a 45 at 33 and a third, or you hit the wrong button, or you hit a button and nothing happens, and you just have some of those days. I heard some jock that had this happen to him on an air check of him, and he said he stopped in mid-sentence because he just couldn't get through the sentence. He says, "Is it too late to call in sick?" And I thought, that's perfect. When you're live, there's nothing much you can do. You just have to plow through and make it happen.
it helps you get better quicker, actually,
yeah.
because you have to stay. You can't sound sick,
Yeah,
even if you don't feel well. So, and you did the voice tracking part. I mean, you were excellent at that. It sounded
Thank you.
like it was done live.
Well, I left mistakes in occasionally. I just had to. I had to sound like I was doing this live.
Right.
To me, it just wouldn't have been right if
Right.
I tried to get everything perfect every break.
Right.
Yeah. So luckily, you never really had to do that because you wound up on a station that everything was still live when you left.
Right.
Yeah.
When I left, which time did I've left many times, not
Well,
always on my own accord.
We'll get to the last time you left in a little while, but let's continue the chronological here. So you're at how long were you at OKO? Did you say?
I think 7.5 years.
Okay.
Then I went to medical school, became a doctor, and went surgery.
I've got to cut that part out.
Why? Then I decided, the money was great, but I missed radio. So I went to WHEN in Syracuse, like I said, and that was just a station, the ultimate station as far as the promotions they did, the things they used to give away, and just the all-around promotion. One of the biggest things about radio that always frustrated me was they were not good self-promoters. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of the stations didn't really go out of their way to promote themselves too much.
Okay.
They'd spend some money on TV advertising and this, but at HEN, it was just all promotion all the time. And we had astronomical ratings at that station. And the general manager, Bob Carolyn, was a gem to work for. He just passed away recently.
Oh.
He was a former on-air guy who became a program director, who they put into the general manager's seat, and that doesn't usually happen.
No.
General managers are usually
Usually out of the
sales-oriented.
sales area,
Yeah, and that's fine and all, but he went up that way. But he just promoted the heck out of the station, and I always thought, this is really the ultimate here. I mean, I'm not knocking stations. They do promote themselves, but sometimes I wonder they don't promote themselves enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can understand that. Sure. So
You don't agree with that?
No, I do. Well, here, look at it this way: every station's got a budget, and if they don't put enough money into that particular part of the budget, you've got to find other ways to get the publicity to get known. I do remember it, and there weren't a lot of things that GNA did right when we first signed on the air. But one thing that was right is we didn't spend any promotional money for like the first 6 to 8 months that we were on the air. We were brand new, the first FM country station in the market, and so the management in thinking ahead here thought, if we promote ourselves and we're not sure of our brand yet, we're not
Right.
sure of how we sound,
Smart.
we're wasting that money. So he did save it, and then eventually, the promotion, got there. But like you, I came out of top 40 and out of rock and roll, and I had no use for country whatsoever. So when I find myself working at a station, first as news director, that's playing country music, I'm not into it. But all of a sudden, I'm falling in love with it.
Yeah.
I wind up wanting to do an air shift in addition to the news I was doing during the week. So on the weekends, I went from my real name as news director to a different name as the Saturday night guy on GNA.
Yeah.
And then when I left and went south, and then came back a year later, I came back as Chris Warren and got out of the news completely and stayed with that. There was someplace I was going with this, Joe, and I've lost completely where my point was going to
I'm
be.
used to that working with you over the years. You've done this more times than I can remember.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will say for country music, it wasn't that I disliked it. We just never really listened to it or had anything to do with it.
Never exposed to it.
Until we went to the stations.
Exactly. Yep.
And then every one of us, I mean, it was just
Yeah.
magic.
No, it was. We had a lot of fun doing it. Absolutely. So you're at OKO and then HEN, and HEN is one of your favorite memories, obviously.
Oh, OKO had a lot of great memories. I mean, all my stations, everywhere I worked, I've had great friends and great people.
A lot of them you still have. I'm
I
sure.
do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, you keep in touch with these.
I
guys.
do.
I do too.
I left HN to go to Buffalo to WKBW radio, which one time was a big time radio station.
Oh, yeah.
And they were trying to bring it back a little bit. And I got to work with somebody who I admired for years, Danny Neverth, the morning guy there.
I even know the name, absolutely.
And he was so down to earth and so nice. And all the people there were so nice. I made a lot of good friends, but I only stayed there 3 months.
Really?
Because I knew from the first day I went there, it wasn't a good fit for me.
Okay.
It's hard to understand, but I didn't really want to go there to start off with. They kept calling me and calling me and calling me. And they were offering me more money than I was making.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, no, I love where I am. But then they kept calling. Finally, I went, and I was disappointed a little bit. It just wasn't a good fit for me. The people were the absolute best. But Mike Neff, who was the program director at WGY, he called me and said, hey, I know you've only been a short time in Buffalo, but would you consider coming back to Albany and work at GY? And I said, yeah, I might,
Cool.
So that's how it all came to be, because
Yeah.
I just wasn't happy at KB. It was tough to leave because I'd been to Buffalo. I'd worked at OL in Buffalo before, and I loved Buffalo, but it just wasn't. I was sort of frustrated there, although surrounded by great people.
Yeah,
really. So
you've just thrown another bunch of call letters in that we hadn't heard before. When we're done here today, as you know, we're keeping a running tally.
Yes, I understand.
And so you're going to have to sit down, pen and paper probably, and try to figure out how many stations you've made a mark at.
All right, I have enjoyed listening to all of your podcasts so far with all the people you've had on.
Thank you.
I will not enjoy listening to this one. I already know about me. I don't want to hear about me. I don't even want to hear me. Yeah. So I won't be listening to this one.
I think a couple of people will at least listen. So that's why I did it. Actually, I should confess right now, Joe is here because...
Yes, let's be honest about this. It wasn't a plan.
A few days ago, in late November, my wife started decorating the house for Christmas. And for the uninitiated who've never come to the tour that I charged $2.50 for, the house is completely torn apart and rebuilt with Christmas decorations. Everything that's normally on the walls comes down. Thank you. So she says to me about halfway through the first day of redecorating this.
She didn't ask.
Last
she said,
week.
Right?
Well, she asked. She said, "Are you doing another interview for your podcast this month?" And I said, "That's my plan in a couple of weeks." She goes, "Oh," I said, "What?" She goes, "You know that futon that they sit on in your den while they're talking to you?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Remember we put a board over that, and all my plants from the living room go up there and into your den."
So that's where I'm sitting now.
And where you're sitting now is where the plants are going to reside. Probably within minutes after you leave, the plants go down here, and so there won't be any more interviews this month. So I called Joe and I said, "Joe, bail me out. Can you come this week so that my wife can?"
Everybody calls Joe and they want to get bailed out. And I don't hear anything about when you got something really hot going or big going.
Exactly.
Nobody remembers me.
Now, let's talk some more about coming to GY the first time. So who is there? You worked for Mike Neff.
Mike Neff, the program director.
Right.
And Mike Neff, who just passed away within the year from COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe it was a little over a year now, but Mike Neff also put a good word in for me at WHEN. That's why they called me at OKO, because Mike Neff had mentioned my name, and Mike was well respected. So he is responsible for that as well. So Don Weeks, who I knew before from working in Albany, but not that well.
Yeah.
And I got there, and you're going to make me say all the names of the people. There was Don Weeks, Harry Downey, Ellie Pankin, who I became really good friends with. Ellie Pankin.
Was Jim Leonard still there?
Jim Leonard and Jim. I'm not going to leave anybody out. Okay. Walt Fritz, Jack Arnicky, who was there. Peter Reef, Jeff Gluck, who recently died. Chuck Custer, Diane Ward. I mean, I can go on and on with Dave Green. You know, it was just Bob Cudmore. Did I leave Bob Cudmore?
Well, we've already mentioned him once. We don't have to mention him again.
I mean, there were so many people. I don't want to leave anybody out, but they made me very welcome when I came in.
Did you know that Jim Leonard and I went to Burn Hills together? Did I ever tell you that? He was a year ahead of me at Burn Hills. Yeah.
What a voice he had.
Oh, absolutely. And he was a great guy. I didn't know him well in high school, but he started, I want to say, up at KAJ in Saratoga and then got the job at GY. And I was so impressed that within a couple of years of coming out of high school, he's on WGY.
His voice, he was there for a long time, and he was in the National Guard for many years as well.
I don't remember that.
And he was very talented guy, very talented. He did a lot of production.
Another kid gone too soon. He died very young.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But you've just named the who's who of Capital District Radio that you got to work with at
Johnny
the number one
Thomas.
Station in
Jim Brennan.
the
Well,
market.
keep going. I mean, they're all there.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm going to leave people out.
Well, certainly you are, because some people came and went, But the nice thing about GY is that a lot of people that came stayed. They were there a long time.
When GE owned it, and General Electric, as Walt Fritz always said, was like a country club, because they were Channel 6 and GY were together.
Yep.
For years, and they were innovators. GY was the first experimental license in radio, although KDKA was the first real official license. But Channel 6, the very first TV station ever.
Yep.
I guess where you worked, River, JFM was the first stereo station in the country.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're talking about innovation like unbelievable. GE, they did a lot of great things. General Electric and GY, and boy, what the history, the heritage of that place.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're going to celebrate 100 years.
Yep.
On February 20th. 2022, and I, Joe Gallagher, have been asked to do a 1-hour show.
Whoa,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And they said you wanted to have those characters you worked with, like, let's see, there was Alicia Daniels,
Yes.
Zach, and
Right.
Tracy, the people that I worked with toward the end there, the last few years. So I think they may all come and join me too.
Well, that's neat. That's very good.
And Jeff Wolf,
and it's also classy of them. I'll give them that. Okay,
Jeff Wolf is a good man. He's the program
Yes.
director.
Yep.
And Mike Patrick, who is the newsman, one of the news anchors there now, worked with him for quite a few years. He's putting a lot of podcasts together.
Yes.
Saluting the history.
Yeah, you did an interview with him just a week or two back.
That's going to be competing with you. Are you going to get upset with that now?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
My disappointment is that I never worked at WGY per se for any length of time. I was on your show on a regular
clogged up
basis.
the airwaves amazing every Saturday.
I did that for many years with you for 10, 15 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the WGY Broadcast Center, also known as Little Hollywood.
Little Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present the J-Dog.
Thank you very much, G-Dog. Very happy here in Little Hollywood to be with you. And Chris,
Where's the Little Hollywood sign?
Well, it was over there. They move it around a lot.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, you know who's coming in after you at 9 o'clock?
Who's coming in after me at 9 o'clock?
That's the SCCC, Schenectady County Community College.
Oh.
They have the singing group, and then they have the barbershop group. And they're bringing the barbershop group in to do some Christmas songs for us.
Right.
Talk about a fundraiser they're having for cancer. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's great.
We had them at our WTRY kickoff for the holiday music.
They were there?
We had not the barbershop folks. We had the Totally Pitchin' folks.
Oh, yeah,
there.
right.
Yeah. And they sang a couple of Christmas carols for us on the air.
Well, they are. They're all totally pitching. And
Yeah, cool.
But we had them here, the whole group here last year. They're very, very good.
Very talented.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Led by Mark Evans, who is there in the music department.
Yes, I met him and introduced the band, or the singers at the event a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Big deal then. Okay, I'm trying to impress Chris, and
And
he
of
already
course, I'm
knows.
trying to over-impress.
He's already dealt with all of this, so now big deal to you, Chris. Really, honestly.
Thanks.
Okay.
And then later on this morning, you have someone from OGS coming on.
No, that's
right?
tomorrow.
Oh, is that tomorrow?
That's
Okay.
tomorrow. You're trying to get a plug in
Well,
for yourself
sure I am.
again. You are unbelievable. These guys, like, they come in here and they just use me.
No, Joe.
I'm being used as a
Come
sounding
on.
board.
You and I we go way back. And
You've been using me now for a lot of years now.
I come over and I sit in your studio and I
Right.
talk with you while the
Right.
news is on, so
Right.
that you don't have to listen to that news again. And she's not listening, is she? And,
No, I don't think so. Totally Pitchin's here already. Look at that. Hey, totally pitching. How are you? Oh, they're going in to warm up in the other studio.
All right. You know, I never think to warm up. Do you warm up?
I have to. I come in there like,
Oh, okay.
I had that something, do, re, mi.
Do you do that? Yeah.
Me.
That part I believe.
I love me. I can't get off the me part. And then I'm ready to go. But so anyway, you're going to be helping there at the tree lighting for the Empire State Plaza.
Isn't that nice of you to bring that up, Joe? Thank you very much.
Well, you already dragged me into it. So anyway, that's tomorrow, right?
That's tomorrow afternoon at the Empire State Plaza. We did this last year, had a great time. So I'll be hosting the event tomorrow afternoon. With all these, dignitaries and that guy in the red suit that you write to and talk to all the time. Santa's going to be there.
Him.
Yeah.
Would you give him a kiss for me?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. Yeah.
Also, okay, that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow afternoon.
You're wearing your long johns. Now, this is nobody's business, really, about his long johns. But you said last year your legs were shaking. You were so cold.
I had layers on the top. I had like 3 or 4 layers underneath my jacket, but I forgot that, my legs, I just had slacks on.
Right.
And so I'm sitting next to Santa Claus on the dais as they're starting the thing. And I look down and my legs are involuntarily shaking. I'm so darn cold, yeah. Now, tomorrow's going to be like 10 degrees warmer than it was last year. So I'm hoping that, and I am going to put the good old long underwear.
I mean, it's nobody's business that he's got long underwear on tomorrow. That's
just
nobody's
and
business.
you can't ask to see it or anything like that.
What's that casino thing? Can I just interrupt for a minute? Your story about, a lot of people don't like to go to casinos. I go.
I know you go occasionally, yeah.
And my wife.
And I do occasionally too, yeah.
You reaffirmed us one day by saying, what was your terminology?
The how to leave the casino with a small fortune?
Yes.
You go there with a large fortune. I know you like that line.
I forgot that.
Because that's how they build these casinos. No, I have had some luck over the years. I think our driveway was paid for by casino winnings.
I probably paid for part of your driveway then. Okay.
There you go.
Smokes.
Exactly.
Now I'm upset again.
Yeah, it's a community thing. Yeah, exactly. So now, what shift were you doing when you first went to GY?
3 to 7.
Okay.
And
Don was doing the mornings?
Don was doing the mornings.
Yep.
And Don was so gracious. He wanted to get me more exposed to the audience by doing he called it the Gallagher Weeks Report. It should have been the Weeks Gallagher. We used to do little bits where we do news stories. We'd each do 4 or 5 of our own little stories we made up. And he promoted that on his show for a long time. Don also did a lot. He was the ultimate. I mean, he could make you cry, laugh. Yeah. He just was his interviews were great. One day I get a call from Don in the morning. It's like 8 o'clock. And he says, "Are you up?" I said, "Not really." And he was on the air. He said, "Well, you better go because there's going to be a cleaning crew coming to your front door."
Oh, gee.
I was living in an apartment. So I get up. My hair is east, west, north, south. I mean, I'm like just out of bed. Yeah. Open the door, and there's a Channel 6 news crew. Too.
Oh, God.
I think it might have been Marty Federici. They come in with the cameras and the cleaning crew, and they're going all through my apartment looking at close-ups, and they found dust on the table. I said, whoa, that's a special ingredient to preserve the wood. That's not done.
I've never heard this story.
They played it back that night on the 6 o'clock news part of it. They obviously, just a summary of it, and it was the most embarrassing. And Don loved that. He was a sneaky snake.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
He was. He'd smile right to your face, and then he would do a number.
Wasn't there an instance in the later years where he heard that you passed, and he sent a ham to? How did it work?
I started a story that said that somebody had said Don said I had passed away on the air.
Okay.
I forget if he did or not, but. Okay. That I had passed away on the air, and I got hams and flowers, and I said it was really a great experience, although I was still alive when we did the show the next day. Right. But Don did a lot of things over the years, always promoting, and he was such a great professional. He was so good at what he did. I loved Don a lot.
See, the punchline, what you didn't get to of that is that didn't you ask him to pretend he died again a year later?
Oh, I said, could you do that again? We enjoyed that ham, and the candy and the flowers my wife got. And
Yeah. See, with all this stuff being live, a lot of it just it's gone out and is being listened to, by people on Pluto now, out in outer space. Some of my funniest lines that I know people laughed at because I would turn the mic off and laugh myself, they're gone. They're never to be heard again. I mean, occasionally we would have an air check, a tape running, and we've got some highlights, but when I got into radio, it didn't take me long to think about the real reason I was having fun doing this, and that was making the audience laugh.
Yeah.
Making them feel good about their day.
Right.
Playing the music they wanted, yes, but also in between that music, putting a smile on their face.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, that's what I did and enjoyed it for 51 years. But and that has to be, I mean, gosh, when you're on GY and they're not playing music anymore in the second coming of Joe on GY, I mean, that's first and foremost in your mind. You're trying to keep these people entertained on the weekends.
Right. I always had this philosophy that if I'm enjoying myself, then hopefully they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I used to do. It was different from not playing music, but that brings to a story that's very important. Paul Cassidy had done the weekend show prior to me. Paul, unfortunately, tragically, he had to have surgery for a heart valve, and he died. And I was filling in for him. And he was supposed to be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, but he died. And then he built that show. He built the weekend show. He had Dennis Fagan, Bob Graves, Jay Bobbin. He put all these really great people in place to be a real part of that.
Yep.
And after he died, I took over for him, and it was already there. And I always said, this will always be Paul's show.
Yeah.
This is the Paul Cassidy. Paul Cassidy was a great guy.
Yep.
When I worked at OKO, there was, way back when, and it's not the people, but there was this sort of feeling that GY was the big, of course they were the big person, the big station. And they, sometimes I remember applying for a job there one time and the program director saying, well, we've narrowed it down to 10, Joe, but you're not one. It wasn't even done very nicely, and it was just, I don't forget his name, and I'm not going to, it's not a big deal, but that was way back when. There was sort of an uppity feeling. They were really the big dog, and we were the small. Paul Cassidy, I met him one day. I was out, we were both doing something for the media, and he comes over and says, Joe, I love listening to you on OKO. He said, I love that station. It would not, maybe, your station as well, GNA. He was that kind of a guy.
Yep.
There was no pretense with him.
Absolutely.
He was right with everybody, and I always admired him for that.
Yep.
And then getting to work with him, I found out what a great guy. And his wife, Pat, and his two daugers, they were very young when he died. But my wife just recently was at a gathering where the two daughters came up to her. Now they're grown in their 20s and said, we remember that, I had interviewed them after Paul's death, but they remembered all that.
Yeah.
It was just a very...
Well, here's my favorite story about him, and I got to work in the same building, with him for a while before he passed, so I got to know him a little bit. But way before that, he and I showed up at this interview that I did with Dolly Parton. It was after a show at SPAC, and it was in the Hall of Springs, and there's this round table set up, and Dolly's going to talk to me. Well, he comes up with his microphone, Paul does, at the same time, and we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, who goes first? And without even thinking, he says, well, you do the interview, I'll take pictures. When I'm doing the interview, take pictures of me.
Nice.
And so the pictures I've got of my wife and I sitting there with Dolly are thanks to Paul. Yeah. And that's just the kind of guy he was.
He's a smart dude, too.
Yeah.
He was smart, funny, and he just...
Yep, and again, gone
very
way too soon. Very soon. Yeah. And there's a bunch. I mentioned this at the end of my last in your last podcast with Buzz, that I'm trying very consciously to get in touch with folks and find them still able to go up the 6 steps to get here to the den, and healthy enough that we can sit and have these conversations, because I didn't do that with Dick Wood, who we just lost a few weeks ago.
Yeah, really?
And I really wanted to, and I just didn't act on it fast enough. I was waiting for him. Every time I talk with him, he'd say, "Oh, I'm feeling pretty good. Won't do lunch this month, but keep calling. I really like hearing from you guys, and I'll be better soon, and and then he passed.
A gifted reader of the news. He was a
Absolutely.
very talented broadcaster.
Yep.
And we just had, you and I just got together with Bob Cudmore and Ralph Iannotti, who was a big guy at Channel 10, went on to KDKA in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And he said he saw Dick Wood 2 weeks before he died,
Yeah,
and they had a good chat. And,
Yeah.
you know, it was a shame. I mean, it was a shame. He was really a well-respected broadcaster. Yeah.
So that's the other reason I have you here, Joe. Yeah. So get you before you die.
Gee. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, some of these people, hopefully they're going to be sober when they show up here. Because
that too.
I'm only kidding, because I never worked with anybody who had a problem.
You know, now that you mention it, neither did I. Although my general manager in Tupelo, Mississippi, I was there for a decade back in 1970 to 71. No, it was 75 to 76, but it seemed like a decade. Anyway, I walk in one Saturday night while he's subbing for somebody, and he's got a 6-pack under the board, and 3 of them are already empty, you know?
Man.
And this is the general manager of the station.
Wow.
So that's the only time. I did a remote in Saratoga Springs, grand opening of a hardware store.
You were drunk.
And this is you
were drunk?
No, I wasn't drunk, but it was an afternoon in October,
Right.
and I'm out in the we called it the pie wagon because it was an old International Harvester pie wagon basically, and we turned it into a remote studio. And I'm out there, and I've got the little space heater on because it's a chilly day. And the owner of the store comes out with a Heineken. I remember it like it was yesterday. He says, "This will warm you up. Have one of these." And I go, "I'm on the air. I really shouldn't be doing that."
Yeah, I would never do that.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's as close as I ever came.
I would never do that, no. You know what? I'll tell you an interesting story you'll probably get rid of. You'll cut it out. But
I'll edit it out, okay.
My wife was at a convention. My wife often go places and speaks in her job. She travels around. And I was with her. And we were in, I think it was Kentucky. And Lexington, I'm not sure where. But anyway, there was these ladies that I was sitting with at a table, and one lady said, "I'm from Wichita," and I said, "Wichita, really?" I said, "Yeah, I used to work with a guy in radio in Buffalo and Rochester who went to Wichita and worked." She goes, "Who was that?" I said, "Jerry Adams." She goes, "Jerry?" No, this is many years later now.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Adams, I bought his house a few years ago. I know Jerry Adams. He's on the radio.
Isn't that wild?
I said, "You got to be kidding me." I've
Oh.
been here in Kentucky, sitting with people I don't even know, and we both have somebody in common.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That it is. That's part of. I call it small bunny because somebody once said that and I've got many small bunny stories I can tell you, but Roger Weiland bought the house we had before this one.
Really?
Yeah. Knocked on our door on an open house, and I said, "You're Roger Weiland."
He give you cash because
so right.
He's rich. I think.
And when I told him who I was and what I did, and he said. He says, "I'm kind of new to the area. Can you show me a talk about money?" Says, "Can you give me an idea of what radio station I can get a part-time job at?" Because he wasn't making enough doing the sports. He was new. He had there was Bob McNamara was the sports guy, and Roger was the underling, and so he wasn't on often. He was doing kind of weekends.
Now
there you go, very well. For
and his
himself.
wife Kelly,
absolutely,
who we worked with for a while.
Yeah, but he bought our house. It's almost 30 years ago.
Has he gotten rid of it yet?
Yes. Yeah.
I think soon after, didn't he have to bring in the pest control people? If I recall. No, okay, I'm sorry.
No, please,
okay,
Joe.
I'm sorry. There's no need for that.
There's
that
no
was
need for that.
Uncalled for.
When you came in the front door, I mean, come on. I mean, I had just washed and waxed the floors. Come on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. So where are we? Let's go back to GY the first time through. So you're there doing afternoon drive.
Yep.
And you got Don in the morning, and you guys are the cross promoting the hell
that was
out
great.
of,
Yeah.
out of your station.
Plus Channel 6 promoted. We used to do promotional announcements that would air on Channel 6. And I could always remember working a TV radio combo was kind of neat because the radio guys get to do stuff on TV.
That's true.
And I remember one of the things I did was I did several things. But one was Little House on the Prairie today at 3 on Channel 6.
Oh, there you
and that
go.
ran for several years.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a cool thing. Yeah, it was great, and we would get promotion that way too. But Don was a great promoter. Bob Cudmore is a great promoter.
Oh yeah,
he promotes so well.
Yeah. To this day.
To this day, he does. And you're another one, very similar. You were trying to sell Ralph your book the other day at breakfast. So Ralph Iannati.
Yeah.
But no, I look at that as that's a gift to me because I'm very shy that way. I'm not a promoter like that. I could ever. You've done. You
and
can do
when
sales
my book came out, you were hesitant to promote even my book, but that was understandable.
Well, we had rules.
We had rules about right.
But I bought your book, and I will say very honestly, I loved your book.
Well, thank you.
I read the whole
Thank
thing.
you.
It was, and I'm not saying that because Bob Cudmore wrote a book, and I told him this years ago that his book about Amsterdam. Made me get into reading again.
Yeah.
I had been away from reading. I read that, and then the next thing you know, boom, 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 I'm off reading books left and right.
Yeah.
The nuns from my school would be so shocked to know that I like to read. And so then I came across your book, and it was great. You guys did.
Well, thanks. My hairstylist is reading it right now, and she said it just sounds like you're talking to me, and that's really the only way I know how to
It's
write.
well
to be
written,
honest
yeah,
with you,
yeah.
I mean my education in that area was broadcast journalism, and that's how you learn to write for the ear,
Right.
not for the eye, but for
Right.
the ear.
Okay.
And so that's how the memoir came out. But thank you. I don't have to plug it in the intro or the outro. I appreciate that.
Did
It's
Ralph
called
buy it,
"I'll
by
Have
the
to
way?
Ask My Mom," and it's available through Amazon.com.
Okay. I wonder if Ralph will buy it. You had him interested.
He's such a nice guy. Maybe I'll just have to give him a copy for Christmas. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have an old college friend who just asked me for an autographed copy for her daughter for
That's
for
nice.
Christmas. Yeah,
Chris,
so
that's very
I'm
nice.
doing that. I'm going to send her one.
So GY, when I was done with GY, I left GY not really under my own terms, but it was a change. They made a change. I mean, it was, one of the nice things about radio, you can lose your job in radio. You say the word fired, whatever, but you're never really fired for cause.
That's true.
It's not because you're a bad employee it's because they always wanted to upgrade or they wanted to do something different.
Yeah. Occasionally the ratings would play a part, okay?
Right, they
if
do.
the ratings aren't quite there, but that's not always your fault either.
No,
because
exactly,
the ratings
right.
are determined by not only the music you're playing, but how it's being played, when it's being played, and all that stuff. And that's the program director's deal.
Exactly.
The music
so,
director.
I mean, so you're never really fired
No,
for being a bad person.
I
or anything
agree.
Like that, just because things didn't work
That's
out.
the business.
But
Yep.
I left there, and then when I left, I got into a different type of line of work. I was doing some development for a local school, and then Brian Jackson bought a station, and we got together, and he said, "You want to come over here and work with me again?" Which I did.
Yeah.
And again,
I visited once. That was quite the little spot you had there
a spot
in
and
Guilderland. Yeah,
he is. I mean, like when I say he's the jack of all trades and master of all, whatever, however you word that, he really was. He ran the station, but he also did a show, and he would come on and do bits with me, and it was very funny. And it was. It just didn't have the powerful signal it needed.
Yeah.
It was listened to in cars a lot more than people could get it at their home. So it was unfortunate, but. Yeah, so that's where I went. And then I ended up, a buddy of mine who I used to work with in Syracuse, Ed McKee, was a great salesman and a former on-air guy. He said, look, if you want to get back into radio again, you ought to get a part-time job somewhere and just get your name out again. And I said, well, I don't know about that. But anyway, Big Mike, who used to work with me at WOKO, became a legendary morning guy in Syracuse at the FM of WSYR. It was Y94. And he brought me to the program director of WSYR and said, hey, I know you're looking for a weekend guy. What about Joe? And it all worked out. I did the Saturday morning. Then they said, do you want to do Sunday mornings too? And I said, oh, man.
Now, were you driving from here to Syracuse?
Yeah,
oh,
every
wow.
Saturday morning I get up early and drive. I had to work with some nice people there as well. And some of the people I worked with at WHEN were there full-time. So
that's nice.
It felt like an old homecoming in a way. But I enjoyed that. But after a while, I said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too much. And then Tom Parker had called, the program director, and he said, I want you to fill in for Paul and do some other stuff here. And then that's how it all came to me.
You came back, and that was about. Do you remember the year? Because I'm
Well,
trying to remember when we
Paul
finally
died
connected.
in 1996, I think.
That sounds
October.
about right. Yep.
So I started there in January. I mean, as a regular weekend guy in 1997, January of 97.
Okay. All right. There you go.
So 29 and a half years total. I was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's when I met you, because I was next door doing Saturday mornings on the river.
Yes.
when we had the studios on Washington Avenue Extension.
Yep.
And I just remember that I'd be next door, but I'd hear you having fun. I mean, I'm playing music, and I'm trying to be entertaining in between. That's just my want. But I stopped in one day, and you actually turned the guest mic on, and we did a back and forth, probably around 1997, 98, and that's. That continued until the day we were both let go in 2019 or 2020. Yeah.
I'm surprised we weren't let go earlier.
Yeah, that's true. It was Saturday morning. Usually we were on between like 8:30 and quarter to 9. You and
exactly,
I.
right.
And by that time, the program directors weren't up yet. So that's why we lasted as long as we did, Joe.
No, that's true. That's how that all came to be. We just continued to do it right up until. It might have been January of 2020 or December of 2019.
Yeah, I think the last air check I have, because I would run an air check of you and I occasionally, so I've got a bunch of them, and I think the last one I had was from like December of 19, because it was pretty early in January of 2020 that you and I were summarily.
And I remember, I want to think about some of the people, Deb Macron and Mike King.
Your producers. Yeah, you had a bunch of great ones.
And they helped make everything work so well, not only by schedule. I came up with guest ideas normally, and they would go after them and pursue them. But they also added so much on the air as well. There were and I'm leaving Dave McKellar, there's Mary Rozier.
Sure.
Yeah. I could go on and on. I'm going to leave people out. But they all made my experience successful because they added so much to that. Okay? It was never any success I enjoyed was really, truly a team effort.
Say, would you like to buy a used Alabama shirt, Alabama socks, and an Alabama hat?
Boy, you just don't want to let this go.
Zach is...
That's what happens. You lose 2 games in the course of the last 27, and people hate.
Yeah, amazing.
Hate, no hatred there at all.
No, it's like they just completely forget about it.
I like
25-2 the last 2 years.
I like the balance. There's different teams get in. I like that. They were talking about college football, by the way.
As you're talking about Clemson.
Huh?
You're rooting on Clemson.
Clem Cadiddlehopper. Remember him, Red Skelton?
Oh, I do. He was one of my favorites.
Clem Cadiddlehopper.
Yeah. When Red Skelton died, I wrote to TV Guide, and they actually published my letter about how much I enjoyed him. Yeah.
You were in TV Guide?
I was actually in TV Guide.
He made it to the big time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You can learn from him, Joe.
Jeez. Okay. Could I get into TV? Is there still a TV Guide?
There is still a TV Guide. They went to the larger format. It's now a regular, looks like it's not the small one. Yeah, actually, it really is kind of on your TV. But no, TV Guide is still out there, the printed publication.
Have,
you think if I wrote a letter to them?
The crossword, I mean, if you got rid of the crossword, just get rid of the guide. I mean, that's all I did in it. Is I
crossword?
Did the crossword.
Didn't you use it as a guide to watch TV shows?
I did.
I mean, it's TV Guide. It's there to guide you.
Years ago, it was such a great publication that I really did read it cover to cover. I mean, great journalists covering the business, and it got bought out by some folks that really didn't care anymore, unfortunately.
And now you can get it all on TV.
But it's a guide. And anyway, did you watch Rudolph the other night?
Oh, I'm sorry I missed it.
Okay.
I did miss it.
Don't worry, it'll be on like 100 more.
Yeah, exactly.
I missed Frosty the other night 2 weeks ago. I love Frosty.
That's my granddaughter's favorite.
I get so sad, though, when he melts. But then Santa says, when the Christmas snow comes back again next year. Thank goodness.
And you get so excited.
So I really like that. But anyway, let's see. What else? I have a bunch of things.
Okay.
So much you can't even
refer to my list.
I beg your pardon. What is that? Well, I have a lot of things I wanted to mention. I just forgot them all. So,
how was your Thanksgiving?
I
guess we talked about that last week.
We talked about that. That's old news.
Oh, yeah. See, I had things to talk about, and I forgot.
Boy, you haven't.
How's Eli Manning? Crickets.
What do you think about that, Chris? You were a Giants fan.
I was a Giants fan. I think it was very unfair that the axe had to fall in his direction.
I think it was the right move, the wrong guy.
Yeah. Did you hear my song about Eli?
No, I didn't.
Okay, hang on. You want to hear it?
Eli is loaded, and so are the Giants.
No, hang on. I have a song about Eli, but we changed it. It should be
run, Eli, run away from those defensive players.
Be. Here it is. This is listen to this. I fixed this up here. Santa's coming.
To the bench.
Santa, yeah. This is really cool. Santa's coming. Santa. Yeah, this is great. Now I'm going to get into it here. Watch this. Gonna bring presents. All right. Santa's coming. Santa's coming. Santa's coming. What do you think, huh?
Yeah, it's got top 40 written all over it.
Eli?
Yeah, who was that about?
What? It's about Santa. Santa's coming.
Yeah,
Didn't you just say you wrote a song for Eli?
No. Oh, did I? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
You meant for Santa. And I worked with a couple of your producers over the years when I would sub for you occasionally on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, and they were just excellent to work for.
Yeah.
We would talk during the week, and I'd say, well, I'm thinking maybe we could do something about this, and then they'd line up the guest, and we were all set. Yeah.
And I can honestly say, when I came back, people would say to me on the street, Joe, hey, I listen to you. Hey, man, I listen on the weekends. And I got to tell you, because I truly was moved by all those. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, yeah, well, oh, yeah. It was like, thank you so much. And I mean that sincerely, because without people listening to you. And Peter Reef always said that I was a acquired taste. He said it takes people a while, Joe, to catch on to what you do.
Well, yeah, try to figure you out. Yeah, exactly.
When they do, he said, then you probably get more repeat listening. But if they don't figure it out, they're probably not going to listen to you.
He never said, leave the guitar home?
Oh no! Peter Reef he is a genuine down to earth guy.
Yeah.
Really, his wife Lizette, nice people. I have so many good memories of broadcasting that.
Oh, you!
I'm not a rich man. I'm rich in that I have a great wife and kids and my family and God and all. And I just am. I look back on that. It's just a great experience.
Yeah, no, I agree, and made some lifelong friends along the way. I've had some that gave me good advice, others that gave me lousy advice. Sometimes the lousy advice or the lousy comments they'd make would make me want to do better or to prove them wrong.
Oh, right, exactly.
Like the guy that said when I went to when I left rock and roll and went to GNA. And I'm playing country music. He said, country music in Albany, New York, it's never going to be a big station. There's just no way you're going to be in the top 5. And within the, I programmed it from like probably 1980 to 86, early 86. So for about 5 years I programmed, and I got it into the top 5.
Yeah.
And at the time, when you remember that what country music was then is very different from what it is today. Today's country music is kind of your adult contemporary of music, if you will. Most of the formats you listen to, a lot of that music could be heard on 3 or 4 different types of stations. But the only other time that you'd hear a country station or a country song on a pop station was a crossover, and you had a few. And there were some big ones,
right?
But country was really country back then, and you could tell the genre. Today, there's a lot of blurred lines.
It's so popular today, and it should have been so popular back then.
It should have been.
Because
I
it
agree.
was so great. But people said line dancing and different things like that started to bring younger people into it. They started to hear the music.
Yep.
And, the group we played their music, the Merle Haggards and the Johnny Cashes and so forth, they sort of disappeared really quickly at some point. I mean, and
that's radio's fault.
Yeah.
Radio did that.
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of those acts are, still out there. The ones that are alive, they're still out there, and they're still playing venues. But you just don't hear them on the radio anymore.
They were so talented, and But today, I'm so happy it's very popular today, and it just should have been that way.
And you're still listening to some of today's country artists?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
We like what I like about on TV. I don't watch a lot of the music awards on TV. I can't take it. But the CMA Awards or whatever, they have their Christmas show.
Yeah.
It's down to earth.
Yep.
The real people.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to say Merry Christmas and sing about things, God and all that. And I love that.
Yeah,
I think that is, and they're also very talented. So
yeah, very good.
They dress a little differently. The women dress a little differently than they did back then. But anyway, they're very talented people. I mean, country singers, male, female, they are great.
Yeah. Well, Joe, this has been absolutely terrific.
You're throwing me out.
No, not yet.
Yes,
there's a couple more things I want to get to. One of them, I'm just going to yell at you here. What do you mean you don't have any air checks of your early days in radio? I mean, I would love to hear what you sounded like playing some rock and roll. Well, I'd love to hear you, doing some, country intros on OKO. You do have some of that stuff, but it's still on cassette.
I can do some for you now if you want. I still remember some of the songs and some of the things I said back then. If you want, I can.
I should put you on the spot and make you do it. It'd serve you right. But now, do you still have some of this stuff on tape, but you just haven't put it to digital?
The technology has changed. So I have. I probably don't have much from the OKO days, or OL, or NYR.
Yeah.
Well,
luckily your old friend from WOKO, does.
Brian Jackson.
And I'm sure I have sprinkled in some up to this point of our conversation already. But yeah, Brian Jackson and you were quite the team, and so he sent me some stuff that he had. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Answers or Else. I'm George Glutton, welcoming our special guest contestant Herman Feinbender from Schenectady.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, Herman. Herman, if you correctly answer this question, you get to go behind Mystery Door 1 or Mystery Door 2 for a grand prize.
Oh, okay.
Herman, who was the George Washington Bridge named after? Come on, Herman. Come on.
Booker T. Washington. No, George Washington.
You're absolutely right, Herman. Now, Herman, you have the choice of going behind one of our two Mystery Door New York State Assembly seat. Behind the other door, a man-eating lion.
Let me think. Door number 2. Door number 2.
Door 2? I'm just going to get off stage a little bit, Herman, and open the door. My best prize! Herman Feinbender of Schenectady, you've won a state assembly seat. So long for now on Answers or Else. I'm George Glutton. Join us again.
That's good. I mean, I just, we got more and more stuff in our house, and we had our kids. Some of the things had to go.
Yep.
And I believe my wife was in charge. No, it was me. I got to tell you, one day we had a lot of water in the basement. The whole street flooded. We don't have that problem as a rule. And something happened, and I saw a lot of my air checks and floating by. And I thought, what?
Well, they were good for something.
There it is. So that eliminated a good portion of them. But
too much.
It wasn't really a big flood, but it was a little water. But I do have some things from Syracuse, but they're on cassette tapes, and there's no way to really. You got to go a lot of.
You do, and for a while, when things went from reel to reel tape to cassette, I made a dub, and then when things went from cassette to digitizing, I was able to. But some of those, cassette tapes I'd pull out and put in the machine would just immediately disintegrate because that stuff doesn't last forever.
Right,
and they would just break apart and they're gone.
Who's going to want to listen to it?
That's the other thing. Yeah. You see this up here? You see this? Mm-hmm. There's like 50 CDs there, and that's my career. My 51 years in radio or on all those CDs. First of all, I don't have a CD player I can play them on anymore.
Okay, right.
Okay. I can put them in the computer and play them, and that's why you'll hear one at the end of this podcast. But I'm thinking the same thing. First of all, my 11-and-a-half-year-old granddaughter is, I'm just Papa. I'm not Chris Warren. I'm not the guy that used to be on the radio. And for the time being, that's fine. I don't foist it on her, and there's nothing. But it'd be nice if someday she says to me, can I have that in your will, Papa? We'll see.
Have a grandpa party, invite all her friends over and say, hey, listen to that. And mine, it was bad enough the first time I went over the air. Why do I want to save it to play back for somebody else and put somebody else through that pain?
Well, see, the fun part about digitizing what I did a few years ago is that you come across some bad ones and, geez, that didn't play right. I'm not going to save that one.
I got a lot of those. Probably why I threw them out.
Exactly. So most of what's here, you can't call it the best of, but most of what's here is what I wanted people to remember me by, if you will. But anyway.
Well, I told my wife you can at my wake, but then again you can play some in the background. But then again, I don't want to wake.
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody coming looking at me and saying, "Hey, look at him, he looks great."
I've said that to my wife as well. I have a party, invite my friends, open bar, and they'll come. And that way, just have a celebration that hey, he.
Here he is. I'll have a funeral mass, but you can't play my air checks at the mass.
Oh, so, no, I don't want that either.
So yes, I don't know. I mean, our boys, sometimes they used to go on and see the stuff with the podcast from GY. We do these videos, Zach and Tracy and Alicia. Yes. We do these goofy videos, and my boys get to laughing at that stuff. But I don't know that it would just be probably not intentionally, but inadvertently thrown out when things are being taught. Because they wouldn't really understand what all that was. So
that's true.
Maybe they would. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, nostalgia has its cycles, if you will. If you remember, some of the top shows in the 1970s took place in the 50s, and then when you got into the 80s, it was that 70s show and stuff like that. So, they have their cycles. So maybe someday, personality radio will be the in thing again.
I think they'll get a kick out of it. That's what I always tell the younger generation. You never experienced it because they never really had it as you were growing up. It had changed.
Yep.
But if you go back to when we were there, and a lot of that stuff I think could become, they're going to say, hey, look, guys on the radio, they're having fun, they're talking, they're not just playing song after song.
Exactly.
It might catch on again, and people be a reinvention of the wheel, so to speak.
Who knows?
But,
until they hear one of my air checks, and then the whole genre will die.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's true, Chris. Yeah, that would put them. That's bad.
You are probably one of the only of the bunch that I see on a regular basis that calls me Chris, because I introduce myself as Chris Warren to you in the business. And one other person does it, Randy McCartan. Who was my boss at the River, and he said and at the WTRY, and he said he did it because he didn't on the air want to accidentally call me by my real name.
Right.
So he said, as far as I'm concerned, you're always Chris. And so everybody else at the table's talking to me and saying Warren, and you yell across, hey Chris,
And I do that with other people I worked with who had radio names. I call them by the radio name because that's what I've always called them by. So
now be honest, is Joe Gallagher your real name?
No.
Okay. What is it really?
No, I had a different name in Buffalo.
Oh, I forgot to ask that question. Yeah, tell me who else you've been.
Well, I was Michael Scott in Buffalo, but that was it. I came back to OKO, and Tom Rambler, the program director.
I remember that name.
Tiny Tom. He's a great guy, and he was the program director. And he's walking down the stairs of the mezzanine one day. I just had been there a day or two, and he goes, Lazy Jim Day. That's what I want you to be, Lazy Jim Day. That was going to be my name.
Really?
I said, no way, Tom.
No.
There's absolutely no way I'll be Joe Gallagher. Thank you.
Exactly.
No more of these other names. And, so a lot of people use their real name nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Well, back when I first started and Top 40 was so popular that you really couldn't keep your name out of the phone book unless you paid them to do that.
Right,
for an unlisted number. So you didn't want your real name on the radio. You'd come up with a name. And in a lot of cases, you also may have had a last name that you couldn't either understand on the radio or really, it didn't flow or whatever it might be. My grandmother never forgave me for becoming Chris Warren. She goes, come on, what's wrong with our name?
That your GPA at your school in Boston was so bad that you changed your name from Warren Garling to Chris
Warren.
Just to get away.
Now you caught me. That's exactly why I did it.
The story was
because my GPA was so low at the junior college. Yeah, exactly.
And Jim Gagliardi, your buddy who went to that school. There's another guy I forgot to mention.
Oh yeah, Jim, absolutely.
Good man.
Yeah, and he's another guy that I have to sit here with. I'm actually finding I'm going to be expanding this a bit because there are just too many news people and TV people that need to sit here and talk about, their careers. And a lot of times it crossed. Like you said, when you worked at GY, the Channel 6 folks were on GY and Channel 6 quite often,
Jack Arnicky, for example, radio news guy, then became an anchor on Channel 6.
Howard Tupper and people like that. You'd see them on TV, but they'd also be on GY.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why this chair that you're sitting in, this futon will hold some other news people and TV people along the way, and when there aren't plants there.
Because you don't water us when we're sitting here and just dump us over with a can of water.
Yeah.
But
Back to names though, the only time I had an argument with someone was over my air name, and that was I had been Chris Warren in college, and I wanted to continue using it in my career. And I go to Saratoga Springs, and Kent Jones, the owner of the station, says, we're not into that highfalutin air name stuff here. You're going to be Warren Garling. I said, well, that's also my dad's name, and he sells cars, and there could be confusion and all this stuff. And sure enough, one day, Dad's selling a car, and the guy says to him, are you on the radio? And the same opposite happened. I had a guy approach me one time, or I probably called me up on the phone and at the station and said, "Did you sell me my Mercury last year?" I said, "No, that's my dad." So there was some confusion, but I went back to Chris Warren right after that. So.
That's how I'm going to call you Chris. That's the way it is.
Rest of my life.
If I had seen your wife today, she's not here, but I was going to say, didn't you used to be married to Warren Garling at one time? So I was going to call her Mrs. Warren.
There you go.
You were married to Warren Garling at one time.
We'd be wandering around at a country music event, and she'd hear people after they'd walk by us. She'd hear a girl talking to another girl. That's Mrs. Chris Warren. She always got a kick out of that.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, no, Joe, this is terrific. Now you have to go home, and you have to do your homework, and you have to email me how many call letters have you been employed by? Okay, that's what we're shooting for.
I think I mentioned them all here today.
Yeah,
you just go back and listen and figure it out yourself. I got to do the math too.
No, I'm not. I was terrible at math. What do you think I went into radio for?
Okay, WGVA. Write this down, right? There was NYR.
I'll count on my fingers. Okay, so 2.
OL.
3.
OKO.
4.
Where was I after that? HEN.
5.
KB.
6.
GY.
7.
Oh, hang on. SYR before that.
Okay, so that's
briefly.
7.
GY.
8.
Oh, I'll go back one.
See how this works, Joe?
CD 96.
Stop it. Go home and do the homework.
Oh, all right.
You were always good with homework, right?
Yeah. I've told you the joke about radio announcers before.
I don't know.
Can I tell you one?
I don't know.
Because we never got a lot of money. I mean, some other guys made a lot of money. I'm sure Dick Wood made a lot of money.
Probably.
Don Weeks made a lot of money. Don Weeks used to say I was going to get his house robbed because I was always talking about all the money he made. But I've told you this before, but 3 guys die. They go to St. Peter, meets him at the gate.
Okay.
And he says, how much money did you make? St. Peter asked, and the guy said, $250,000. He goes, what did you do? He said, I was a lawyer. He goes, oh, okay, go ahead. He goes, how about you? He goes, $300,000. What did you do? He said, I was a doctor. He goes, oh, nice. You, and the guy, $15,000 a year. He goes, oh, what were the call letters?
There you go.
You know,
that's it.
I mean, that's just a typical everybody in radio.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But like you've mentioned early on, we really didn't do it for the money, although we needed it to pay the rent and the mortgage. But we got stuck in it because we just loved doing it and loved the response that we get from the audience.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you can never. I would, if I were to go back again. I mean, maybe if I were to start over again, I might want to be a plumber. But I have no regrets. I mean, really, everything is done for a reason.
Yeah,
everything happens for a reason, and we move this way for a reason.
Where do you think you'd be today, though, if you had stuck with the accounting stuff? I mean, look at Bob Newhart. He started out as an accountant.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I would have wanted to be an accountant after I got to see what it was like. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to be worrying about a company and this and that. And no, I would never. You're sitting at a desk, you'd be bored to death probably. Probably rich, but bored to death.
I actually worked at a CPA firm for 5 years.
Oh, I remember.
I did.
That.
Yeah, that was my first job outside of out of radio after 17 years full time. And you know how they say it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And so I just started calling everybody I knew and told them I was looking for work.
Right.
And somebody that I had volunteered with at WMHT, public television, she worked there full time. She said, my husband's CPA firm is looking for someone like you. And I said, you want me to play records at lunch? You know, I mean, what do you mean? And she said, no, they're looking for their first marketing director.
Oh, nice.
And I actually said right to her, I said, what's marketing?
Yeah,
and she said, well, you've been doing that on the radio. Whenever you're doing something not on the radio to promote your station, that's part of marketing. Okay. I said, oh, okay. I wound up working there for 5 years as their first marketing director.
Nice. Probably made a good salary,
and wound up starting that little trophy over there is from the Hall of Fame, an accounting marketing directing Hall of Fame. Okay, nice. AIM is the name of the group, and I helped co-found that and wound up in their Hall of Fame. So I had a whole new career. But Joe, it was only like 2 years when I was there. After about 2 years, I was really missing radio, and that's when I went back to it part-time.
Where are your radio awards?
Well, there's some Addies right there. Oh. Those are for podcasts, though.
My wife and I bought a little cabinet for my awards, but we had no use for it, so nothing ever went into it. So we kind of
So. Most of mine are in cabinets at radio stations far and wide.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I left them with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, for the fourth time, this has
you.
been fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back and figure out how many stations I worked at. You can listen back to this program. I haven't got more things to do than to go back and look back at how many stations.
Oh, yeah. So what takes up your life these days?
Sergeant Bilko, Phil Silver's show.
Highway Patrol.
The Highway Patrol, the Honeymooners.
Perry Mason.
I am Perry Mason. Matlock. I'm getting to Matlock now.
Wow, you've gone to the colored show, the shows in color.
Yeah, Chuck Custer one time said, "Hey, Joe is moving up into the 70s now." This is just a couple of years ago before he left. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do a little bit of that. I enjoy that. I love watching the old Johnny Carson shows.
Yeah, Johnny Carson.
And I do watch some old Dick Cavett interviews. Dick Cavett's the first person I ever wrote to TV about. They took him off of a daytime show he had on ABC, and I wrote a letter saying, and I'm sure it wasn't very nice, but I was really pissed off. I said, "This is the smartest guy on TV, and you can't find a place for him." And he wound up doing nights after that. But
he was. He was
still is.
Yeah.
Still out there. Yeah.
He's on that Decades network. His shows are on there all the time.
I record those and watch those at my leisure. But but like you, do a lot of reading as well. That's how I spend a lot of my time these days.
And most broadcasters, male or female, either had very successful wives or husbands. I mean, that's how they survived.
It's true.
It's true.
It's
true. They're all, my husband is an engineer. One of the ladies would tell me, and my wife is, that's how it works. I mean, we're kind of like leeches.
Yeah.
No, not leeches, but I mean,
Well, really, I could not be sitting here doing this with you. I would still be eking out a living in broadcasting somehow if I had not gone full-time into something else and just did radio part-time the last 35 years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it worked out, and I'm able to do this podcast. And I can't thank you enough. I love talking with you, which is probably why we have breakfast and lunch together occasionally.
But I won't be I won't be listening to this podcast.
Okay, all right.
No, that's
reasonable. Yeah, I have to listen back to it just to see if you slipped any 4-letter words in and stuff like that. But,
you should have a contest and have people count how many stations I worked at, and then the first one that responds, you give them your book.
Boy, are you a radio guy or what? Did I ever tell you about the time I had them guess how long it would take me to shave off my beard on the air?
No.
Oh, yeah. I grew the bicentennial bionic beard in 1976.
Really?
And I shaved it off a couple days after July 4th. And I had my listeners on GNA, write in, tell me how long it's going to take me to do it. I'm going to use an attachment to my regular razor to get most of it off, and then the razor, the electric shaver. And I had John Stanley and Eddie Dark, two guys that worked at GNA at the time. I had them do the color and play-by-play.
Nice.
There's a swipe to the left cheek, and stuff like that. And and it took me like 7 minutes, and a lady had guessed 10, and that she was closest without going over, and she won a 6-pack of albums.
That's nice. You should have given her all the hair too, from the beard.
Never thought to do that.
You got to throw all that in there, and they could use it for what do you call it in the yard for their garden.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, thanks for coming up to the Radio Split Ranch just in time. We're interrupted by, I'm sure, a robocall.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, thank you. That's to you and the wife.
Take care.
All right.
Radio Split Ranch.
I don't know. I think if the phone didn't ring, Joe and I would still be talking. And take it from a guy who spent a few minutes a week talking with him on the radio for some 25 years or so. It's a fun and easy conversation, as you can tell. After we stopped recording, Joe wouldn't leave the Radio Split Ranch until we counted up his stops on the radio dial during his career. They totaled 10, bringing our running count for my 5 guests so far up to 57. Joe mentioned during our talk that he'd had some great producers along the way at WGY. They were partly responsible for the unique flavor of his weekend shows. Back in the year 2000, I suggested he might have some fun interviewing my stepbrother, a talented musician who's had an interesting career as a lead guitarist and a commercial jingle composer. So I thought we'd end this episode with Joe doing what he does best, engaging interesting folks in conversation. Hope you enjoy it, and it'll be one more reason to check back with us again next month. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
But currently, Joe, sunny skies, 1 degree. From your Weather Authority, Radio 810 WGY.
Well, it is Sunday, our second last day of January. We move on to February. And of course, we have a leap year this year,
which means we have one extra day to deal with. One more day, one extra day of stress. Do we...
What a perspective.
No, I'm...
Jeez.
But I'm just thinking we might try to help out here in the next few weeks on this show somehow by maybe giving somebody something. Who knows? We're not sure yet.
Okay.
To help over to, make up for that extra day we're going to get for leap year. Is Jeff ready?
Sure.
Does Jeff know his stepbrother's name on the radio, perchance?
I don't think so. Well, I'm not sure.
I'll ask him when I come on. Jeff, we're going to bring on Jeff Southworth. He's a musician, jingle writer. You probably have seen his stuff on TV. You probably have heard him on CDs or records. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good this morning, Joe. How are you?
Hey, good. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
When your brother, your stepbrother, now do you know his radio name? He said you probably didn't know his radio name.
Now, I've heard it, but it escapes me now, so.
Well, it's...
Chris Warren.
Chris Warren?
Yeah.
Chris Warren.
I was going to make Casey Kasem. I was going to make it something.
Oh,
Casey
I'm sorry,
Kasem.
Joe. Yeah, it's Casey Kasem, Jeff.
Casey Kasem. Right. I knew all these years he was actually leading a double life.
No, Chris Warren is the name he goes by. Great guy, as you know. He was telling us about you a few weeks ago.
Right.
And I said, man, do you think we could ever talk to Jeff? And he said, yeah. Now he hoped. He didn't come. He said, yeah. He said, I'll check with him.
Well, now I owe him one. You see, I have to.
Well, you can get back. Well, you know what? He gave us the whole station a cold a year ago. He got a cold. Maybe he got it from you, Jeff. Remember?
Nice guy.
He went on a trip, and then 300 people got sick after he came back. But anyway,
wow.
Hey, Jeff, listen. You played a little bit with Hall & Oates.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about now. What you were on a couple of songs, one song.
Well, basically, I was with them from '80 through mid '82.
Wow.
Which was a kind of an interesting period to be with them again because they'd of course had some really good early success with Abandoned Luncheonette, Sarah Smile, She's Gone. Those hit singles were off the first album or two.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of went through an exploratory period which didn't really yield too many hits. And when I actually, a friend of mine, I had just gotten to New York City in '79, and I was kind of scuffling around, and a friend of mine that I'd hooked up with had auditioned. They were looking for a guitar player, and he had auditioned, and he didn't get the gig. But he was so nice, he told them about me and said, why don't you call this guy, Jeff Southworth? And I went down to Daryl's apartment, and John was there, and he was in the middle of writing what was to become actually the big hit off of the album Voices, which took that album gold and then platinum, which was Kiss on My List.
Mm-hmm,
and he was in the middle of writing it. He didn't have any lyrics yet. He was playing it in his living room, and the bass player was there.
And you're in the apartment trying out as a guitar player?
Yeah, I had a little practice amp,
wow.
And I strapped on a guitar and just started to jam with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I did well enough, so it was one of those, thanks, and I hope you passed the audition. And I got a call about a week later, and they said, come on down to SIR, which is Studio Instrument Rentals, where they had all their gear and they were rehearsing. I said, yeah, you're in the band.
Wow.
So I was totally blown away. It was a very exciting time for me. And at that point, that album, Voices, had the remake of You've Lost That Love and Feeling on it. It had You Make My Dreams Come True, and also, Kiss on My List, which I ended up going to the studio with him, and I cut the solo on that.
Wow.
And also played guitar on You Lost That Love and Feeling. And I think I did maybe one or two other cuts on the album following that, which was Private Eyes.
Right.
So that whole period covered about '80 through mid '82. I did a bunch of touring with them, and it was just they were on the rise again, and just I think they pulled 3 hit singles off Voices and 2 off of Private Eyes, and they were just rolling again.
Well, what's it like to be driving around and hear on the radio or have a song at home that you played the guitar on?
Well, you hear people say, "Wow, that's my song," and it was very much like that. You're driving around in a station wagon on your way to a gig or something, and everybody's paying attention to what's going on with the charts because it depends on what kind of audiences you're getting and what kind of concerts you can play. And then it comes on the radio, and it's really a gas. It just blows you away.
Wow, that is terrific.
It's a lot of fun.
Now, did you travel in the United States to Europe? Where'd you go with Hall & Oates?
Actually, we did both. We did 2 or 3 tours in the United States, I think, the first year, because they really were just kind of getting wound up again into a pretty big juggernaut,
Mm-hmm.
And I think 81, we did a round-the-world tour. We actually did 2 kind of world tours, and the big one, we went to Japan and Australia after hitting France and Germany, and did some stuff in England.
Wow.
Very, very great way to see the world. You know, everybody else would be asleep in the morning, and I'd be out, you know, going to art museums and stuff. But I never knew, you know, I was like, well, hey, my way is paid here. I don't know when I'm going to be back here. So, you know, you go to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam and see the Van Gogh exhibit.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it was great.
Jeff, that's exciting. Now, you have some commercials on TV running now. Is the Dr. Pepper one of them?
The Dr. Pepper stuff, I've done probably about a half a dozen arrangements. I don't know the one that's going to run on. I think there's a spot in the second quarter of the Super Bowl today. I don't know if that will be my arrangement, but I actually did quite a few of the arrangements this year on this particular Dr. Pepper campaign that's just starting.
How would we know now if I'm watching today if it's your arrangement? Would I have any way of knowing?
That would be hard to say. I suspect that it will not be. I think probably what they'll do for the big kahuna today is they will run what we call the generic, which is kind of like the general arrangement. It's not specifically the country one, the girl rock one. You know, those are more niche-oriented kind of films. I did actually a kind of a fun Latin, very sort of a Ricky Martin Latin arrangement, which is sung in Spanish. They're running it only in Spanish. It was a lot of fun. I doubt that they'll run that one on the Super Bowl today, but...
you've also done some other stuff. Was it for Chevy or the heartbeat of it?
Yeah, this year. Well, back in '86, I sort of, you know, when I got off the road, I did some more touring after Hall & Oates. I did some touring with Laura Branigan. And
Laura Branigan, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Gee.
Yeah.
I'm glad you called today. This is great. Okay, go ahead.
So about mid '80s or so, I decided to, you know, touring is a lot of fun, but it can also get kind of old. And I was trying to build a career in, you know, doing session work and stuff in Manhattan. And just by happenstance, the amount of record work was sort of diminishing in New York City. It had all sort of gone to L.A. or Nashville. And I ended up playing on more jingles than records over a period of time, and I sort of backed into it. And I ended up at the jingle house I'm still at, actually. In '86, I arranged the Chevy Heartbeat, you know, Listen to the Heartbeat of America.
Yeah, right.
And that was a great run for a while. And then a few years later, I was about '93, '94, I was involved in the AT&T Your True Voice. I produced Whitney Houston singing that. And this past year, for the 50th anniversary of Chevrolet, they had kind of an interesting idea. They owned the song already. It was the old Dinah Shore Chevy Show theme song, See the USA Chevrolet.
Right.
And they wanted an update of that. So I found this wonderful new singer, and I threw her on the thing, and I came up with kind of a contemporary arrangement, wrote some new lyrics. The bridge was horrible. I mean, it was this wonderful sort of old Broadway two-beat, but it really didn't fit, you know, kind of a modern thing. So I trashed the bridge and wrote a new one and stuff, and they actually picked that. They were running that this past year.
Isn't that terrific?
And you'd know that one because the girl at the end says, "Let's go for a drive."
Oh, let's go for a drive.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, you hear something in the background here? I have a guitar.
You do?
You looking for any help down there in New York?
Well, you have to have a style.
Well, I got a style here. Can you hear that? What do you think?
That's a style, Jeff.
That's a style.
Yeah.
It's my style. Yeah. What do you think?
Basically, if you can niche market something, and the radio, the record companies do this also. If you have a distinctive style, then they can do something with you. Well, that's a style, Joe.
See, but it still has to be good.
Jeff, my style is Deb knocked my guitar down a few times, and I think
as
that's
often as I can.
What hampered the style of this a little, but it sounds a little better sometimes. Well, not right now, but if I was ever interested in coming down and jamming with you, would that be...
You just give me a call. We'll close the door. We'll turn off all recording devices. And as I said in Mission Impossible, the secretary will disavow all knowledge of your actions.
You're just like your stepbrother, Chris. I'm a wise guy. No, Jeff, this has been great. I just thought when Chris was telling us how fascinating a life it must be for you. I know it's a lot of hard work, but that's kind of a neat thing to all these accomplishments you've done. And we, the people sitting around, we hear you and see it, but don't even know it, really. But
we work behind the scenes, much like the power company, you know.
Yeah, right. Well, this is really, we really appreciate the time today, and it's been really a lot of fun.
I appreciate the call, Joe. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks so much.
Okay.
And if you're ever looking for somebody to help jam, whether on another record or Hall & Oates,
don't call Joe.
You can give me a call, all right? Hey, Jeff, take care, all right?
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
What a nice guy, Jeff Southworth. Man, he's done some great stuff, huh?
He has.
Hall & Oates and...
Did you really think he was going to let you play?
When Chris mentioned his name, I thought maybe if I get him on the air and I play for him in the background, maybe he'd say, come on down.